Mayor Fung, thank you so much for coming and for being willing to stand center stage and take all of this. Over the years, there have been a lot of governors. This is your second time around.
Yes.
Pretty much, when I hear you speak, I'm almost transported 4 years ago to hear some of the same concerns and issues that you have. As governor, particularly in the state of Rhode Island, you're not the most powerful person when it comes to creating policy or making sure that that policy gets enacted. I have a two-part question,
Sure,
if you don't mind.
not at all.
Yeah.
Your time is my time.
Part number one is where do you see the governor's role in creating policy? How do you get that enacted? And perhaps more importantly, if we were to look, let's say 4 years from now, what will you have done?
Okay.
Once you're in office? Let's say that you're there. With the General Assembly, there's also somebody else running in your town who could be that speaker, who can be one of the more powerful folks when it comes to generating legislation, making sure that legislation gets through at least through the House anyway. So what is your role?
Sure.
How do you see your role in the General Assembly? And 4 years from now, what will you have done?
Okay. Well, it's a very good question, because just like, and we all know, our governor's post is not like some of the governor's posts all across the country. You know, a lot of the powers are vested, more importantly, like you were talking about, Paul, in that speaker's office, because they control the budget. I recognize that. One of the ways that we can have control, just like I have control in Cranston, that I'd like to see at the statewide level, is a push for a line item veto. A line item veto is an appropriate check, and I have it in Cranston on any increases to withstand and withhold and push back on any type of spending on the legislative body that's out of control. We don't have that as a government. We don't have that as a state, and I think that's an important one check that's critically important to hold back against that legislative body where we've seen that budget. It's growing out of control, and the governor has been complicit in that. In this past 4 years, the budget has grown by nearly $1 billion under our governor. And you're right. Many of the problems that we face 4 years ago, because I've been appearing in a lot of community forums, are the same questions that are being asked of me 4 years later. So I think we all have to ask ourselves, are we better off now under this administration than then? But pushing for a line item veto is something that I will passionately push for, because it works. I've used it judiciously in Cranston, where spending has been out of control. The other part where I think it's important, because I always try to work across the aisle, but if they're not willing to work with you, I'm not afraid to come out to all of you through town hall style meetings. That's what I did in Cranston. When I first got into office 9.5 years ago, it was a 9-0 partisan Democratic council, and I was a Republican. I could say, it's cold outside. No, it's not, you're crazy. It was that bad. You know, I tried whatever I can to put plans in place to help fix the holes that we had. Well, all right, they ended up starting rejecting plan after plan after plan. I wasn't afraid to go to the press, and I, most importantly, wasn't afraid to go back to our residents. I held town hall meetings at every single part of the city, the western, middle, eastern side. I let our residents know what is going on, what the problems that we face, and made them part of that solution, and it works. And I can tell you, for the first time, and Cranston is an urban area. We border, Providence. First time in 20 plus years, from that 9-0 that I had when I first got in, last election, first time in 20 plus years, we've got a Republican majority on that city council, because I keep doing the right thing, keep putting plans out, but keep talking to people and letting them know what's going on. Having that buy-in from your residents, having them be part of that process and know what's going on, holding people accountable is what's critically important. And the last thing that I am going to push for too, that I want to see, because line item veto is important, but an inspector general. I know in that growth in that budget, $9.6 billion, there is waste and fraud in many of these different departments. And if we can have an inspector general, independent inspector general from the outside, you know, truly free from a lot of the political politics that are involved, going through not only my departments, the legislature, the judiciary, and even some of these quasis, you can find some of the dollars, cut down on that, and just put those dollars back where it needs to be in the services, the frontline services that we all deserve and expect.